So IML is valuable for that reason. It was originally created by Leathermen for Leathermen, and at the time that it was brought into being 37 years ago, there was the kind of iconography and role modeling that was available was very narrow. So masculinity had kind of one model, if you will, the John Wayne model, as I talked about last night. And models for masculinity now are quite different, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So the society that we live in now offers a much broader range of ways for people to identify themselves as not merely male, but man and men. And there's a distinction there that has more to do with that's more complicated than merely puberty. That's a point that I made last night.
And the community is evolving.
Oh yeah.
You may have noticed that animal roleplay is now part of this community.
Indeed it is.
And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on where do you feel that has come from?
Well, let me be clear about something. I'm not part of that community. When it first appeared, I was puzzled and perplexed by the emergence of that community, scratched my head and basically said, what the hell?
As many people have.
As many people have.
Yep.
So I'm an outsider trying to look into a phenomenon that I don't personally relate to and try to come to some understanding of it. Again, a research question. All I really have is, my own internal stuff to offer, my own conclusions about that. But I was thinking, every time I am around that population, I have to re-filter my thoughts about all of that to see if I have any new data. And I have a little bit of new data that's come to me this weekend. Now, well, let me back up. In the old days, before HIV, in the leather community, it was fairly common for newcomers to the scene who really felt some passionate draw to the radical sexuality of hypermasculinity and or BDSM to seek out people in the community that they felt knew stuff. They had data, they had information, they had experience, they comported themselves in public in such a way that respect was earned. And young people, newcomers of any age, really, not just young, would gravitate toward those people and try to begin to move in their social circle in an effort to learn more about the craft of this sexuality, if you will. And I don't mean just technical skills, but also the morality and the group think, if you will, about how that subculture operates. HIV wiped all that away in the United States because older, experienced guys no longer had time for what I think I have to call our children, because they were busy helping one another die with dignity. And when adults are not available to bring up younger generations and to school them in the traditional way that it had been done, the young people will find their own solutions to these problems. And at some level, I think it can be persuasively argued that the pup movement has been one of the ways that young people have been able to reclaim the mentorship situation without having to resonate with something that they can't relate to. Because our iconography is different from their iconography. They have superheroes now that they can identify with, and do quite often. They have sports figures that have been eroticized in a way that did not happen in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So, I don't know, my guess is that at some level, the pup world is an entree, is like a gateway opportunity to begin to investigate the world of radical sexuality from a safer place.
Yep, absolutely.
Because they get to, they don't have to sacrifice their spontaneity now in order to learn. And I think that may also be a part of it. It's my perception that as a group, and of course there are obvious statistical exceptions, but as a group, handlers tend to be older, and pups tend to be younger. I don't think that's an accident.
No, not at all. But it's an interesting parallel that within the pup play community, it's like Tupperware. There's more pups than handlers. There's more tops than bottoms. There's more bottoms than tops, and all of that sort of stuff.
So there are some parallels that.
Absolutely, and within the HIV is noted to have removed a generation, multiple generations of educators, of people who would pass on law.
Right.
And perhaps this is a new way of creating law, is that if there's a vacuum, something will fill it.
Like I said, when adults are unavailable to socialize their young, the young will figure out these, new solutions to these problems on their own. And I'm not at all convinced that the pup community is not one of those solutions that has caught hold.
As a well-established person within the leather community, you said that you're looking at this new section of kink and fetish. What did it look like to you? What did the pup community look like to you when you
at first glance? At my first glance, and this is years ago, was that it was an abrogation of responsibility. That this was a way for pups to sort of be around erotically interesting men without having to accept really any responsibility for the outcome of their interactions, because they could behave like a friendly, eager dog without having to know any of the social rules of interaction and so forth. They were relieved of those responsibilities, and that created some emotional comfort and more emotional accessibility to a world that they were interested in.
And yet it created the tension as well, that there's always been tension with these people don't know how to treat a sir. These,
Indeed.